All right, welcome back in. Refuse to lose territory here on this Thursday. Mariners beat the Tigers on Wednesday 4-2. With that, 56-59. No great record to write home about, but just 2.5 games back in the American League West and 1 game back in the wild card race of the Cleveland Guardians and the Texas Rangers. Joining us now is ESPN MLB insider Buster Olney, as he does every Thursday. Buster, as always, thank you for being with us, and how are you?
Sucking down coffee. Post deadline, there's been so much conversation about all the deals that went down, all the deals that weren't made, the motivations behind what was going on. I just love it, but I am a little sleepless.
Well, we'll talk about what the Mariners did or didn't do at the deadline momentarily. Let's get to the micro. They do win yesterday 4-2 after losing a really kind of lackluster game one in this series, 8-0. They go for a series win on Thursday afternoon. It feels like a must-win to me, and old nemesis Framber Valdez is on the mound for the Tigers, Buster.
So I'm going to push back on you again. I'd say this. I just don't think there are any must-wins in this division, right? It's just as played out. It's been so mediocre. Yeah, you'd love to wrap it up, and you'd love to start building some momentum going forward, but geez, I remember it was 2 weeks ago, and they were playing the Rangers in that 4-game series, and it felt like at that time, like, oh boy, this could be a crossroad. The Rangers won 3 or 4, and then the Rangers collapse. And here's the thing too, is that at the trade deadline, what did the Rangers do? Basically nothing at the trade deadline. What did the Astros do? Basically nothing at the trade deadline. I think the front offices sort of view this division, the same way that I do, which is, there's a long way to go. You don't know what's going to happen. There's not a great team. Someone is just waiting for someone to stick out their elbows and to take control.
Again, Mariners 2.5 back. Buster, let's talk about last night, because last night was really interesting. So the Mariners win it, but there were some theatrics and fireworks in the 8th inning. So what led up to that? Bryan Woo hit 3 guys. Now, clearly, I believe none of them were intentional. He hit, right, I believe, 2 of them with curveballs. But whether intentional or not, the Tigers hit Cal Raleigh in the bottom of the 7th. And then in the top of the 8th, Gabe Speier gets 2 outs, nobody on. He throws inside on Gleyber Torres, misses, then comes further inside and hits Gleyber Torres. The bench is clear. The umpires confer. Speier ends up ejected. I hope that the Mariners are not hitting people on purpose in a situation like this, because they're putting traffic on that could lead to disaster when disaster happened, when a home run came on the next batter. I don't know that I've ever seen a pitcher get ejected after a 5-minute umpires conference as opposed to just being ejected instantly. What did you make of the whole scene last night, top of the 8th inning, Mariners-Tigers?
I think everybody acted in the way that they thought was the best, appropriately. To me, and I'm not surprised that it played out the way that it did. And I agree with you. I don't think that Bryan Woo was hitting anybody on purpose, but there is that cumulative effect, right? Where a team, and I've talked to many players about this through a lot of years, where, you know what, you let a breaking ball get away. Okay, that's fine. You do it a couple times, you hit 3 guys. Yeah, we're going to retaliate. And so who do they go after? And the message being sent to the pitcher's co-captain, the catcher, right? And then the Mariners feeling like they got to protect their guy. Cal Raleigh is their guy, no matter what kind of offensive season he's having. So they throw at Gleyber Torres. And look, I should say that, I'll qualify it. I'm not actually in Speier's head, but yeah, he threw at him.
Yeah.
It was pretty clear by the approach. And I love Gleyber Torres' reaction afterward, where he was like, he laid out what happened. He believes he got thrown in on purpose. And then he said, yeah, I appreciate the fact that they hit me in the butt. It was baseball stuff. It was the Mariners doing what they felt like, the Tigers feeling like they should do their jobs. This is what we have to do. You can't just keep hitting guys without a response. And then the Mariners saying, yeah, we hear that, but you can't hit our guy and not have anything happen. And then the umpires saying, we all know that this was done on purpose, so we have to react. I think in the end, everyone, goes to bed last night. I don't think there's going to be a carryover necessarily. We'll see.
What do you think of the umpire not throwing Speier out instantly and no warnings? I guess that was the thing to me. There were no warnings given, and that's what had Dan Wilson irritated, and he ended up getting tossed also.
Yeah, so I think in that case, First off, in that situation, I mean, the umpires are well aware of what's going on in the field. Before every game that I do on broadcast now, I'm the guy who cues first pitch. So I go in and hang out with the umpires for 10 minutes or so and chat with them. They're fully aware, just like we are, about what's going on. And it might be that the crew chief or somebody else in the group said, you know what, it's pretty clear he threw at him on purpose. After having that conversation, in the moment when the batters hit, their concern is the bench is emptying and Gleyber Torres and Cal Raleigh going nose to nose and guys running in from the bullpen, and then they get a moment to settle it. I've seen that before, and I've seen managers react the way Dan Wilson reacted, where they're so. It sounds weird when you have a situation where a bunch of guys are thrown out and the bench is empty and guys are getting hit, but I think everybody did their job from their perspective in this case, and I that's why I say I think everyone wakes up today feeling like, you know what, we did the business as we saw fit, from everybody, from the managers, the players, to the umpires.
Buster, before we get to the deadline, I have two things I would change that are very small if I were commissioner for a day. Would you like to hear them real quick?
Yeah, let's go.
One, I believe that when a pitcher is ejected or injured and the new pitcher coming in, I believe the new pitcher should be allowed to warm up in the bullpen, not on the game mound in front of everybody. It irritates me all hell when the guy has to warm up on the mound. That's one thing I would change. And two, after seeing Randy Arozarena's helmet fly off one step out of the batter's box yesterday, I have decided everybody needs the Jed Lowry 2-flapped helmet so that the helmet stops flying off. What do you make of my second rule?
What is the problem with helmets flying off? I kind of like that. It makes him look faster, right? It's like back in the day, Billy White Shoes Johnson. Why do you think he wore white shoes? Because he thought he looked faster. So I have no problem with the helmets flying off. I don't follow your logic there. Warming up in the bullpen, the guys coming into the game, let them get accustomed to the mound on the field, because there are oftentimes differences between how the mounds in the bullpen are groomed and how the mounds in the field are groomed. Does that make sense?
It does. But the other thing I would say is I also would like the on-deck circle to actually be used for its intended purpose. I'm tired of going to these games and seeing hitters basically standing directly behind home plate and getting an unfair advantage at Mariners pitchers. And yes, I'm aware Mariners hitters do it also. I believe that the on-deck circle should actually be used for its intended purpose.
Okay, now how old are you?
I am 36.
Okay, and I'm 62, and yet in this conversation, you're the old man yelling at the cloud.
Correct.
Okay?
That is absolutely true. I am. So those are things I would change if I were commissioner for a day, and yes, I am aware there are bigger fish to fry. All right, let's talk about the trade. Let me talk about the schedule first. The Mariners are going to finish up with the Tigers on Thursday. The schedule beyond that is brutal. You've seen it. I've done the math. I've decided the Mariners need to go 12-11 the rest of the month to set themselves up for a chance into September. Can you find 12 wins for the Mariners in this brutal gauntlet that they're about to go through?
Yes, because I think the Mariners are actually a good team that disguises as a team that's under 500.
Okay.
and I'll continue to believe that. It's so funny because you and I have had these conversations all year, and I've referred to them as a sleeping giant. And then I think, am I wrong? Am I just completely screwed up in talking about it that way? And I talk with executives, with teams, and they're like, boy, the Mariners. And they still look at them. I mean, Brian Wu last night demonstrated that at any point he could be a Cy Young caliber pitcher, right?
Yeah.
He's one of the best pitchers in baseball, and he's got this whole road game thing going on. If Cal Raleigh took off, if Julio Rodriguez took off, it would shock nobody. And now they have Brendan Donovan back and adding Taylor Ward to their offense. You could see them start to play better. So I can absolutely see 12 wins, but I understand your perspective because you're watching it play in and day out. You're watching the sausage being made, and let's face it, it's ugly.
It has been ugly at times, that is for sure. Deadline reactions. They move Luis Castillo. They move Luis Castillo's money. They get a reliever in Sir Anthony Dominguez. They get Taylor Ward. What'd you make of what they did, what they might have left on the table?
I'm trying to remember. We did a post-trade deadline special, and we gave grades for all 30 teams. And I think the grade that I gave the Mariners was a B, largely because of the Castillo trade.
Okay.
I love the Castillo trade. How many times did you ask me the last 4 months about, could they trade Castillo? And me being the idiot was saying, no, you can't move that money. No one's going to take that money with all the questions about the labor situation. Teams are not going to be willing to take that much money. And by the way, big picture, that's generally speaking how it played out. The Mariners were the one team to unload an onerous contract. And I'm surprised because there were other places the White Sox could have gone to get a starting pitcher without taking on that kind of money. But from the White Sox perspective, look, Luis Castillo is a respected veteran. He's been there before. They, generally speaking, have a young team. To have that sort of personality around, you get it. By taking on his contract, they didn't interrupt their flow of prospects. So it's not like they went through the trade market and gave up, their, like the Red Sox, 2,
Yes.
3, and 5 prospects to add to their rotation. So you understand. And here's the thing too, the White Sox, they tanked a couple seasons, so they've got financial flexibility. They can do some things. They can certainly grow and absorb that contract without a problem. But I was surprised the Mariners were unable to unload that deal. And look, in terms of addition, just getting Taylor Ward, he could help them. He's not having the sort of dynamic power season that he had with the Angels, where he hit, last year, 36 home runs.
Yeah.
He's drawn a lot of walks. But, the Mariners could have a water torture offense, like this lineup they have guys on base consistently. And then, when someone puts the ball in play, if they get the middle of that order going, they can be better. I thought it was a proportional response. Last year, Jerry DiPoto was very aggressive in adding Josh Naylor and Eugenio Suarez because they were playing well. Like there was a team that you could bet on. They're not playing well. So they made a moderate improvement to their team. And I think that given how they're playing, I think that's kind of what they earned. The Red Sox, I mean, think about it. The Red Sox on the flip side, they're playing great. They're 30-5. And so their front office said, you know what? We're going to back up the players. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to add before the trade deadline. And that's what those players earned. And I think the Mariners players earned this, a sort of moderate, tepid response to how they've been doing.
Did you get the sense ever that the Mariners were really interested in moving Kirby or Hancock, or once they moved Castillo, there was no need for that?
No, and I don't, I haven't, gone knee deep with anyone in the Mariners organization since the trade deadline. And there's that period, it's kind of fun, the week after the deadline, where you talk to people and you get the debriefing. I don't have a sense that they ever got to the 2-yard line on any big trade for either one of those guys. I think like a lot of teams, they were just seeing if they could possibly capitalize on the trade market. Now, as it turned out, and you and I did talk about this as well, it was a really robust starting pitcher market, which is another reason why I was surprised they were able to move Castillo. There weren't very many relievers available. I had a GM say to me that once the Padres became buyers rather than sellers and took Mason Miller and Morahone off the market, the relief market was thin, right-handed hitting market was thin. The starting pitching market, though, there were a ton of guys available. And so I suspect that that meant that the Mariners probably were not getting the offers, if they ever did that in earnest, that they had hoped to get.
Jerry DiPoto spoke to the media this week after the deadline, and he made it pretty clear Cade Anderson is not going to the bullpen, at least anytime soon. Yeah. You have been pretty adamant that you thought he would debut as a reliever. What did you make of Jerry's kind of staunchness on the Cade Anderson front?
Really interesting. And maybe it's partly because of what we talked about, right? The tepid response. And because of course, he was the number 3 pick in the draft in 2025. And you have the opportunity as an organization to wait to put them onto the 40-man roster and start their service time clock. I could see if you were the Mariners saying, boy, this team is not playing that great. Do we want to start the service time clock for a team that hasn't performed great, of this great talent? I mean, it's clear that he probably could pitch in the big leagues right now, okay? But do you want to start that service time clock now and with the labor situation next year? Do you want to have that complicate what his timeline is going to be, the 40-man roster in the offseason? All those things are up in the air right now, I think, because of the labor situation. And again, I haven't gone into it in terms of debriefing with people within the Mariners, but I'm curious to see what I hear.
I hate doing this to you because I think it's a futile exercise, but I do want to ask you about the roster.
I love these.
When JP Crawford comes back, I am very curious what is going to happen. Does JP Crawford become a bench player? Does JP Crawford become the starting shortstop and Colt Emerson's a bench player? Does Colt Emerson go to AAA? Does Taylor Ward become a platoon player and Brendan Donovan goes to the outfield? Like, I'm very curious how things will be handled once JP Crawford is healthy. And admittedly, I don't know how quickly that is, but I am curious kind of what the thought process would be down the road.
So number one, among the players that you've mentioned, the number one thing for me is Colt Emerson. You have to continue to develop him. He's in the big leagues. Now, if he craters, like if he's hitting under 100 and he's completely lost, then yeah, you could send him to the minor leagues. But as long as he's competitive and you have a good feeling about how he's handling his work day to day, then you make sure that he's in the lineup, because at the very least, at the end of the year, you will have developed this player. You and I have talked about Jack Caglione, how the Royals, they brought him up in 2025, and they're living with some of the failures. The Cubs lived with some of PCA's failures, and there were a lot in the last couple of years where he had some ups and downs. And I think if you're the Mariners, you're living with those as long as he doesn't look like he's overwhelmed. And then after that, you go with who's hot, and the priority is about winning. And, what's the best matchup on a given day? Who's hot? Who looks like – and the great thing about the Mariners roster now, I think, between Ward and Donovan coming back, different guys they have in the outfield, the fact they moved on from Ref Snyder really gives them an opportunity where they can try different things. They can move JP Crawford around if that's what they need to do. So when they acquired Ward, what I got back was right field – some DH opportunities, and we'll see where it goes. If Ward starts getting, it was interesting to me that he batted eighth.
Yes.
In at the bottom of the lineup rather than the top of the lineup. And man, if that lineup gets going, Brendan Donovan and Ward are both guys who consistently get on base. There could be opportunities that begin to develop with this lineup because they're going to get on base a lot.
Buster, I'll get you out of here on this. It's a big weekend ahead. Mariners and Rays, obviously the best team in the American League, comes to town, so it's going to be a tough series. But it's also the 50 Greatest Mariners celebration. We've talked about this a couple of times. Alex Rodriguez announced he is part of the festivities. He's coming back. I think it's going to be an unbelievable chance to mend fences for A-Rod. Guy who's not coming back is Kyle Seager. Very clearly some animosity in how things went down with Seager and Jerry DiPoto at the end of Seager's career. You're not in the everyday weeds on that, so I will ask you a 30,000-foot question. Do you have any stories or any memories of guys who just held grudges even after they were playing? Because that appears to be where Kyle Seager is.
Many, many, many. Many, right? And the most famous one was actually with a Hall of Famer. Yogi Berra, of course, had this amazing career with the New York Yankees. And then he was hired as the Yankees manager, and George Steinbrenner famously fired him. I think it was 1985 was the season, 8 games into the season. And Yogi Berra thought that was ridiculously unfair, and he refused to go to Yankee Stadium, okay? So old-timers days are being held, and Yogi Berra, one of the all-time great Yankees, is not going to the park. And then it was actually one of the team broadcasters, Susan Waldman, who sort of brokered this peace between George and Yogi Berra, and they worked it out. And in the end, when I was covering the Yankees, all of a sudden Yogi Berra is in the ballpark all the time, and he's talking to Derek Jeter all the time. I think it's great that Alex is rejoining the Mariners, because I know this, in my time working with him on Sunday Night Baseball, having conversations with him, and I might be completely out of school here. I think that Alex's time with the Mariners is the time of his career he values the most. The stories that he tells, the passion that he speaks of about, getting a chance to work with Edgar Martinez and the guys on that team, and how much joy he had with, playing under Lou Piniella. He loved his time there. And it made me sad that there wasn't that, that peace between the two of them. So I'm glad that he's back and with the Mariners, because at some point, we all hold grudges in our life at one time or another, have issues, family members, friends, or whatever it is, and you move past it and you go big picture. And I'm glad. And I hope at some point that happens for Kyle too.
I think it's definitely going to happen for A-Rod. I personally think this will be the jumping point to him getting in the Team Hall of Fame at some point down the road as well.
Yep.
So, Buster Olney, ESPN MLB Insider with us every Thursday. Mariners Tigers today. Mariners Rays this weekend. Mariners Yankees next week. Buster, I will be live in New York next week, so we will talk about our schedule next week as I'll be at Mariners Yankees, but we'll catch up soon, and we'll catch up in a couple of days. Thank you.
Okay, Brady. Thank you.
All right, that was ESPN MLB Insider Buster Olney. I love talking to Buster. And I'm going to see Buster in person next week. Actually, the ESPN crew has Mariners Yankees on Wednesday, so maybe I'll talk to Buster live from New York or live from Yankee Stadium. I don't know. I got something else special planned for my trip to New York as well. So we are just moving along here on the Refuse to Lose Territory podcast. I appreciate Buster. A lot of good stuff on A-Rod. I'm very into the A-Rod story, as you know. Talked about it a little bit with Angie Mentick on Wednesday. And a special guest coming up on Friday's show, Brock Hewart, former Seahawks quarterback, former Colts quarterback, but also current Seattle radio host. They just spoke to A-Rod. We'll get his perspective on the M's and on that conversation as well. Mariners-Tigers, as far as I'm concerned, a must-win game on Thursday, even though Buster doesn't think so. If Buster thinks there's an easier path to 12 wins than I do, you got to get it here as far as I'm concerned. All right. That was Buster. Remember to subscribe to the channel for free, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube. Thank you to everybody who has done so far. We'll be back for a full episode on Friday. And as always, go M's.